Justin, would you lead us in our invocation?
Yes, sir. Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, God, we love you. We just thank you for today. We thank you for the many blessings you give. God, I pray that you would just be with our city, with the city servants and first responders. God, I pray that you would keep them safe in the weather that's to come. I pray that you would be with us tonight and give wisdom to those who are making decisions. I pray that everything that we do would honor and glorify you. We love you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Samantha, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll go ahead and convene our meeting. We'll start with the roll call. Misty Cottle.
Present.
Jeff Upton. Here. Jan Throgmorton.
Yes.
Marty Lindaberry.
Here.
John Collins. Here. Dina McKnight.
Here.
Don Rollins.
Here.
Jimmy Conda.
Here.
Our city attorney and city clerk are both present. First item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Jeff, I do have an amendment to discuss some expiring CDs that the city has. I would like to add that to new business item 3.
I make a motion to approve it with the amendment. A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Next is the approval of our meeting minutes from our December 12th meeting. Do we have any changes that need to be made to those? Do we have a motion?
I'll make it.
Second. Motion and second to approve the meeting minutes. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Next is our public forum. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to address the council tonight? No? Okay, we'll move on to our business reports. First up is the Planning Commission. Walter?
Good evening. So we've actually gotten a little busy. Our last meeting, we didn't really have a whole lot that we did talk about. We had a couple citizens come in concerned about the land clearing up on the bluff on city's property, and we reassured them that we're doing something about it. Other than that, we started talking to Juliet Ritchie came in and presented us with the updated version of the text of Title 14 of our zoning code. And we went into that a little bit. We kind of got off track, started talking about the bluff and river protections more than really getting that, but that's a problem that keeps coming up, so we decided to do a little bit with it. So we're waiting on Juliet to come back with our updates. We've got 5 meetings coming up. So the next 3 Thursdays are meetings. We have a special meeting this Thursday with Juliet. Then on the 18th, we have our regular meeting. And then again on the 25th, the following Thursday, we'll have another special meeting with Juliet. So we're going to be moving fast on this one. And then we're going to have another 2 meetings with her in February. So anybody, please, that we're going to be doing some work. So it's time to come in and get your opinions heard. Other than that, Bonnie, our newest member, has gotten off the ground running, and she has gotten a few people to come in to talk to us. Let's see here. At our January 18th meeting, we will be having, let's see here, Morgan Keeling from the Illinois River Watershed Partnership to come talk to us about sustainable growth. And then Bonnie also has scheduled a meeting with, let's see, on our February meeting. I'm not seeing who that is. I'm going to have to look that up. Oh, here we go. The Watershed Conservation Resource Center is also coming to our February regular meeting, and that's on the 15th of February. So I know I'm kind of all over the place with this business report, but yeah, we got a lot of meetings coming up, and we're going to be doing a lot of, not decision making, but a lot of work on the zoning code. So now's a great time to come in. Yeah, that's about it.
Any questions? No? Thanks, Walter.
Thank you.
Next is our court report. Tracy is not here tonight. You can see the disbursements were down for the month of December, and I think for the year they were down, I think it was around $80,000 for the year, which is significant when you talk about a department that runs on such a tight budget. So that's definitely something that we need to keep an eye on. Other than that, any questions concerning the court report? No? Next, our library report. Marie?
Hey. So I heard that there was a question while I wasn't here about library cards and who's getting them. So I'll just say there's a lot of families who get them, but we also sometimes just get like new people in town. So there's like a large variety of people who come in and get new library cards with us. This past month we just had 9 new ones, but I checked, I believe it was yesterday, we already had 8 new ones for this year. So we're really excited about that. Excuse me. So a total of 23,000 in-person visits were made to the library this year, which may not count everyone who was using library facilities, because we also have people who park outside to use Wi-Fi, and we also sometimes have programs in other buildings. And anyone going to those programs but not stopping by the library would also not have been counted. We had 1,909 in-person visits just in this past month. And we had 2,700 checkouts. So we're really excited about this past year. We had 1,967 people approximately, because sometimes we don't count quite correctly during programs, come and do program attendance at the library. About 700 of those were during story time visits. So we have story time almost every single week, and so we've had almost 700 attendance counts for story time, which we're really excited about. And then we've had about 163 programs this year. So anyway, it's been a really good year. So we're happy.
Very good. I forgot I'd ask that question, Marie. Any questions for Marie?
Sounds good.
No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, the police report. Chief Halliburton.
Good evening. We have had a pretty busy December, as is expected because of just something about the nature of the holiday. In total, we've had 526 calls. 86 of those were calls for services, where someone actually dialed 911 or called the police department itself. 440 of those calls were self-initiated calls by our officers. We wrote 50 citations versus 299 traffic stops. Served 29 warrants, 6 felony arrests, 3 misdemeanor arrests. In that time period, we're up about 200 calls from this time last year. That's what we've done for the month of December.
Find some drugs here a while back.
Yeah. Just before about a week ago now, I think, Officer Pitts and Sergeant Riley were able to get about a pound of meth off of an unsuspected person, which that is some other things for other agencies.
It's awesome. Not so awesome they had it, but awesome that you got it off the street.
That's right. That's right. Any other questions for Chief Halliburton? No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday. Next, Public Works. Isaac Carterson.
Not a whole lot. We're hoping our water loss will be down this month. We had leak detection come in and find a couple of leaks for us. One on Centennial just north of Dogwood, and one that we hunted for a while up on by the water tower up there on Redbud. I guess that's Redbud. So they come in, and in a day and a half they found them both, and we dug them up and fixed them. So That's water loss. We can.
Were they big ones?
Yeah, pretty good leaks. The one on Redbud was actually coming down the sewer main. The ditch for the sewer main was actually coming in the manhole. We found it as a leak in the manhole, and then it was awful dry, and we tested it, had chlorine in it, so we chased that one back and found it. And then the other one was just a clamp leaking. So we ended the year 26 million gallon under what we sent to Fayetteville in 2022. So some of that's due to a dry year. I can't take all the credit for that, but
Take it where you can get it.
yeah. Smith Street they're about to wrap up. They're trying to get an asphalt contractor in there to pave the streets. I know their deadline was the 8th of January, but they had some weather days built in there, so they're probably pretty close to going to be on schedule.
Are they gonna fix McKnight also?
Yeah, they will hot mix it. We're kicking around trying to get them to pave Smith Street at the same time, but we've got to do some stuff to Smith Street to get it wide enough for 2 cars to come down through there. So, and then we've also got several repairs on sewer to make up through there before we don't want to dig up a new asphalt street. So we got that to do too. So we may have to punt that till summer and probably put that out to bid. But I guess the other thing I'll talk about is the recycle. We did let those trailers go back to Boston Mountain. I think over the last 4 or 5 months, I keep they'll call me and, hey, we're getting trash in there. When they get trash in there, they just dump it out and they push it off in the MRF and it goes to the landfill. So they had some suggestions about putting the trailers inside, pulling them out every day. And I mean, that might have worked, but the people that come down there at night are just going to set their stuff out by the gate and expect us to put it in there every morning. So I think this was the best option, just to let it go back. And Robin and I and a lady by the name of Taylor Osborne over there, we met about it a time or two, and I think this is the best option. I know I had 3 guys that were getting tired of picking it up off the ground down there, so. And then there were several people in town that would pick it up when they were down there, so. And it's a shame. It's a shame that we had to let it go back, but yeah, I think that was the best move, so. I think that's all I got. Fire away.
Any questions for Isaac?
Do you think we would ever come to a point where we could have a facility like Greenland does? I mean, that's what I use, but it's nice.
Well, I mean, have you toured their facility? Have you been in it? It is manned. It is manned all day long, and it's indoor, and they have the cardboard compactor, and so yeah, I mean, they got a pretty good setup.
Don't we, I mean, I have a recycling bin at my house. You know, isn't that part of our trash service as well?
Yep.
I don't understand then why we need a recycling center if we're already paying for recycling.
People don't want to pay the $13 a month for it.
Well, they also don't take class, right? They
Right.
don't-
Right.
There are certain things they don't
They don't
take.
take class.
Yeah. But, the big cardboard is, harder to.
You can drive it to Fayetteville. Greenland to Fayetteville.
Any other questions or thoughts for Isaac? Thank you, sir. Parks report, Chad Harris. Another West Fork birthday.
I know.
Oh my goodness. Happy birthday, Chad.
Thank you.
39 again, right?
I wish I felt it. So the last month for the parks has been pretty slow with holidays and taking some time off and the weather, but we are still just working on prepping our Carter Park facility, mostly getting ready for the baseball season. The high school teams will start practicing down there as soon as weather permits, and so we've been working on our fields and our bullpens and getting that facility cleaned up and organized and ready for that, working on batting cages, different things. We'll start our signups for our summer league ball. We call it summer league, it really is not, it's more of a spring league, but, those signups, we've been working on getting those registration, all the information for that prepared, and we'll open those next week, and they'll run through, middle to late February, and we'll start organizing teams and get that all started in March. We'll start practices, in early March and games in April, so it's coming on fast, so, that's mostly what we've been doing, and so, yeah, that's about all I've got.
Question?
Okay,
Are we
Thank
gonna
you.
get it to stage before the 4th of July?
yes, before April.
Even better.
Fire report, Chief Myers. Happy birthday to you, sir.
Took it in January, right?
That's what I do best.
Really, I don't have a lot either. 48 less calls than we had last year, but I promise you it didn't seem any slower. So, finally get to have our first fire meeting next Monday that we hadn't had one in the last couple of months, so got our new training schedule up to par. Got 5 or 6 new people that will be joining us this year, so I'm excited about that. We hadn't had that many new people at one time in a long time, so it'll be good. Just getting ready for all this winter stinking weather we have. It's a pain in the rear.
Yep.
Chaz got it easy. That's all I got, right?
Any questions for Chief Myers? Thank you, sir. Next up is finance report. Christie, happy birthday to you.
Don't make me older than I am. I'm a long ways off. Okay, so we ended the year, our bank balances ended $108,000 less than we started in January, but we had budgeted to take approximately $380,000 out of reserves, so 108 is a small portion of that, so I think overall that's a good thing. Our budgets came in $263,000 under budget. You can see on there that we had multiple departments that were a little bit over this year, but overall we were still well under budget. Our city sales tax increased by 9.2% this year, and the county increased by 5.45%. I meant to go back and look exactly where we ended last year, and I don't remember, but I think that's very close to the increase that we had last year also, so it's just doing a very steady increase. Now, the water department, their bank balances did go up for the year. They ended about $162,000 more than they started the year, and ended up at $146,000 under budget. As you can see, we had 6 months of our sewer income versus expense were in the black for 6 months out of the year, so that's good. It's definitely better than we were last year. The bottom number's a lot better than we were last year. So. Other than that, I've just been really busy. Really busy end of the year, beginning of the year stuff. So, that's all I've got.
Any questions for Christie? Thank you, Christie. Don, do you really bleed blue?
I did today.
I was just curious. We don't have any old business. We have a couple items of new business. One is Resolution 2024-01, governing rules for the West Fork City Council. And this resolution is, I believe Tom brought this to our attention. There's a requirement for us to set our rules each year that we will be governed by throughout the year. So that's where this came from. Not really a lot of change from how we have been doing things. There are a couple changes in there. But for the most part, it's just laying out who does what, how they do it, how we do it, that type of thing. Any questions or comments on that?
Pretty straightforward.
Well, I was wondering, does this affect anything like wards, election dates, terms that already exist?
No.
Okay, it has nothing, just making sure.
No, it's basically just saying that we're a body of 8 members. This is when we meet, this is how we meet, this is how we handle our meetings as far as a relaxed, Robert's Rules of Order,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Do we read it, can we read it just by the title?
It's a resolution, so
No, we don't have to read that.
we can just do a roll call vote on it to pass it.
And do most people do number 9, the procedural motion? Or is that something that we just put in to make life easier?
You don't miss much, Misty.
I know.
That's
Well, there
exactly
were-
why we did it.
Oh, yeah.
If you do it.
The presiding officer, is that what you're talking about?
No, number 9, procedural motion, motion to suspend the rule for all ordinance on the agenda.
That's number 12 on mine.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. So procedural motions,
Number 11, number 9 on number 11 is what it is. So you go to number 11, then you go to number 9.
oh, okay, I see where you're at. I'm sorry.
It'll be.
Gotcha.
It'll be.
Motion to suspend the rules for all ordinances on the agenda. So, that is something that I've talked to Tom about. So when you go to like Fayetteville's meetings, yes, they will suspend the rules for the entirety of the ordinances that are gonna be discussed, that instead of doing it, by each ordinance. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I like that.
that's more detailed on the very last page, number 12. That's where I was seeing it at.
Okay.
But yes, it is pretty common practice.
And then is number 9 a change in a president pro temp officer? Yeah, number 9 is that instead of a president pro temp?
It would have to be.
Yeah, it is instead of,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So are people doing away with the president pro temp and doing this, or is this just something you put in there?
This tracks state law.
Okay.
We made, the president pro tem something we made up, but this tracks state law.
Okay, well, because it used to be president pro temp, so I was
Yeah.
wondering, well, is this, because I've never heard of this, I only knew of the other.
Mhm.
Okay,
yes, as set forth in state law.
okay, so we're not actually able to pick them anymore, it's just random, whether they're newly elected or?
Well, so we have picked them, as in, it's just Ward 1, Position 1, or
Yeah.
Ward 1, Position 2.
Okay, well, I mean, I didn't know, because before, it was kind of like, whatever picked, I guess.
Yeah,
So that's why, those were the,
your concerns?
wondering where it came from.
Yeah. Anything else?
I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve it. All those in favor say yes.
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 Those opposed, no. I also didn't know that it was the duty of the chief of police to be at all of these.
I didn't either. I mean,
That's our
I guess, I didn't realize we were finished discussing.
I just assumed it was, because everywhere else I've ever been, it's been like that.
Yeah,
I think they like it.
Or my designee.
yeah.
Or the designee.
All right, item 2 of new business, resolution 2024-02, the 2023 budget adjustments. And so this is
What we did.
this is what we do each year. We obviously have some line items that are negative from what we budgeted for. So all we're doing here is voting to adjust those budgets back up to 0. So we get rid of the negatives. And as Christie stated, we came in under budget overall, but we have line items that were over budget. So I don't think anybody's,
And we have to be balanced.
that's right. I don't think anybody's here that
Unlike some of them.
Not allowed.
Right?
that hasn't went through this before. So any thoughts on
You okay with that, Mark?
the budget line item adjustments?
I make a motion, we approve it.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to make those budget adjustments. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. So item 3 is the amended part. Christie brought this to me. So we have 3 CDs that are expiring, or that are coming due for renewal. If we do nothing, they auto-renew at 2%. We have a 10-day grace period to move those to a 7-month CD that will earn 5.05%. And so that's what we're recommending we do with those 3 CDs for the time being is,
I motion to move those.
Misty?
We make a motion that we do, that we make it,
yes.
that we move it for the 7 month and get the 5% instead of 2.
Okay, I've got a motion.
A second.
Well, can that motion specify that we're gonna close the 3 current CDs and open new accounts for those 3 CDs?
So part of that
It
is,
can.
we have to
We
close those to
them,
move them
those
into the
accounts and
7
move
month.
3, yeah. It can.
Whatever she said.
Yeah,
still
what she
second.
said.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to close the current 3 CD accounts to open 3 new CD accounts for 7-month CDs at 5.05% interest. And then we will determine what to do with them at that point. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor for that say yes.
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 Those opposed, no. That motion carries. All right. That brings us to other business. And I put together a little PowerPoint for everybody. I've been talking about this for a while, just to bring up a couple things, to walk through some different topics on growth and some of the things we're seeing, and some of the ways that we're affected by it. So slide number 1 or 2, Ann's gonna have to run it for me. I don't have a clicker. Here's what I'll do, Ann. When I get ready, I'll.
Okay. Hold on a minute. That's
Just holler, click.
Wait, let me get my video.
Just hit the down arrow. You should be able to just hit the down arrow. Not going anywhere? Space bar?
Okay, if you'll look
All
at
right,
your
go
hand
ahead.
out.
Yeah. And all else fails, they need the paper.
Okay, way here, but it didn't go there.
Nice job, Pete.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty fine, it's on the screen.
Call IT. Never mind, here she
I'm
comes.
not IT. Nowhere close.
Next best thing, financial director.
Is it a video?
No, it's not a video. It's just a clicker.
It's
1,
still
2,
video
3.
going out.
I took out all animations.
It's doing it on the computer screen.
No, this is your computer.
Yeah.
Chief, where's Goggins?
And the other time, it's right here.
Well, we can do the Vanna White thing.
Yeah.
There it goes. You jump,
All right.
You caught up.
jumped a
You
couple
caught
of us.
up. There you go. That's page 1.
Can you go
Who
up
catch
one?
us?
That's where we should have been.
We got it.
Tell
Population
me about
matters.
it. Are we going to get there?
No. Man, I put all this work into that. It's not gonna work now.
We appreciate the effort.
Just don't click right here. See this right here?
Yeah, I can just click here.
Did you tell them, hey, sever the other one, or have you mentioned it?
Yeah, you change it, it doesn't change on the screen. I see your mouse and everything.
Maybe, close out of it and open it back
One
up.
trouble I had was I couldn't get onto the Wi-Fi every time.
It put me in.
Okay, go ahead, Heath, we'll try to catch up with you.
Okay, so council has it. So, just a couple of obvious points, but our revenue in the city is based on our population. That affects city revenues through sales tax, county sales tax, property tax, and state turnback. But it also affects our school revenues, right? So the more kids we have, the more property tax, or more houses we have, the more property tax we're collecting. But it also affects our state funding. And so our state funding, our state turnback, our county sales tax, those are determined based on our population. So anywhere you go and purchase something in Washington County, they're going to collect the county sales tax, that city's sales tax, and the state sales tax. And then the county takes and they divvy all of that county sales tax up back to the cities. So they use a portion of it and then they disperse it back, turn it back to the cities. And so population matters for that as well. So that brings us to population and how it matters. Obviously, it affects our revenues. But it also, for the city, it affects what services we have, what services we can provide. It has an effect on our safety. It affects what amenities we can provide for citizens. The more population we have, the more homes we have, and most likely more businesses. But it's also important to our schools. So the more kids we have, the more subjects of study the school's going to be able to offer, the more facilities, faculty, extracurricular opportunities. It just increases the kids' opportunities overall if we have population. So we have had for the past couple years, go ahead and change the slide in. We've had several subdivision developers coming into town looking at different pieces of property. Some have came to the city council, some haven't made it past planning, but they're all looking to do subdivisions. And when we think of subdivisions, this is kind of what our mind still goes to, is our typical subdivision here. But the next slide shows us something that's a little bit atypical for West Fort. And this is more of what we're seeing people wanting to bring into the city of West Fort. The Planning Commission is dealing with this, and they're
Trying to find middle ground.
they're trying to find middle ground of how do we offer what the developers want to build versus what we want to see in West Fort. And we get hung up in West Fork. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Ian. So what's the difference between these two?
Double the population.
Yeah, so click the button again, Ian. So you can't see that from here, but it says there's 42 homes in that picture, and there's 84 in the next picture. So what I wanted to highlight here for City Council and Planning Commission is, if you look at these two pictures, there's basically the exact same amount of asphalt, the exact same amount of sewer pipe, water pipe in both of these subdivisions, but what we have is one subdivision is having enough property tax collected to maintain itself, to repair those. When we think about this, we change water meters when they get to at least 1 million gallons, Isaac. By the time they get to 1 million gallons, we got to change them all, right? Well, if all those houses are built at the same time, all water meters are going out at the same time, right? And so the idea that we have built before us is our property taxes should be maintaining our property, okay? And when we look at the subdivision on the right, there's a good chance that there's not enough property tax being generated out of 42 homes to maintain that much asphalt, to maintain the replacement of that many water meters when they all go out at once. When the sidewalk starts to crack on one side of the street, it's probably going to crack on the other side pretty soon. So that's what I'm trying to wrap our heads around is, why is density important? It's not just important to the developer, it's important to the city as well. When we start talking about how are we going to maintain this, and we'll talk about it more as we go on. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Ian.
Well, but isn't there actually more water pipe and more sewer pipe because there's more houses? Because
There's
they have
actually
runs to that individual house?
So we don't maintain from the street to the house.
True.
We just maintain what's in the street. And so in the streets are relatively the exact same lengths. So from the city's perspective, no, there's not more pipe.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's a picture, and it didn't come out very well outside of the computer, but the idea here is what's wrong with it? And the answer to that is we have a subdivision that's out in the middle of nowhere. We don't see a subdivision or a building anywhere around this. And so when somebody comes to the city and they say, we want to build this subdivision, and they're not doing infill, right? So we have infill and exfill. Exfill is we're building new sewer main out to this development. Well, now what we end up with is now this development not only has to provide enough property tax to maintain the system within that development, but it also has to maintain, we have to get enough property tax to maintain that new extension that we just built.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not that this is terrible, but there's different considerations that planning and city council need to look at this type of development for. And so one is that development, is it going to encourage someone to infill that sewer main that's been built out to it, that water main that's been built out to it? And is it going to do that in a relatively short period of time, right? And if it's not, then we need to have that discussion of, do we want it? I mean, that's some hard discussions to have, but when you start talking about building outside of our current infrastructure, then there's other problems that come into play. So if we go to the next slide, Ann, who wins, the city or the developer? And so on the city side, we see that we gain new infrastructure, we gain population, property taxes, values go up, but we also get some problems with that, right? More maintenance costs, traffic congestion, growing pains. And then we look at the developer. What do they win? They get money, they hope, right? But they've got some risk that's coming in with them too. They're putting all the money up front to do this, hoping somebody's going to buy the house, hoping that the housing economy is going to stay up by the time they get all of the infrastructure put in. And then I think something that a lot of times we miss is that developer goes and puts in, so Smith Street, they've put in $500,000 worth of infrastructure, streets, sewer, water, curbs. $750,000. So they've put in $750,000 into that project. Once they get that piece done, the streets, the sewer pipes, the sidewalks, they're going to come in and dedicate that to the city. They give it away. It's now ours, which it increases our balance sheet, but it also increases our maintenance burden, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that the developer's putting all that money in and then just giving it away and hoping that they have an economy that they can sell those houses and lots for enough to cover that, cover that sunk cost. So I just say all that to say that when we look at a subdivision or a development, a lot of times we get hung up on how much money the developer's making, and we lose sight of some of the risks they're taking and some of the wins that the city is getting out of that. So next slide, Ann, is whether we say yes or no, and what do we need to consider on that? So the first one is land values. And so why would the city be considering land values as far as whether or not to approve a development? And this is something we talked about a little bit at our last council meeting when we approved that 5 millage rate that we received. So with property taxes, the city of West Fork gets 5 mills based off of the value of your home, okay, through the county or state's calculation of it. And so land values matter. And the reason I say that is when we think of, let's talk about West Fork Acres. It was built in late 70s, early 80s, right, Don?
Late 60s, early 70s.
Late 60s, early 70s. So the land value was very low when those were built. And I can remember, I was out of high school and some of those houses were still selling for $40,000 a piece, right?
First one I bought was $24,000.
$24,000. So the way they calculate property tax values is they take its value, okay? This house is on a lot, it's selling for $26,000. They take and they cut that down, they multiply it times 20%. right? And that's where they start calculating or multiplying times those millage rates to get the property tax values. So the problem is we got a subdivision that had homes in it that were selling for $26,000 in the 70s. Those houses are now selling for $200,000 plus. But the property tax millage rate can only go up 5% a year. And so the point is that if we're approving subdivisions, and I'm not saying you don't approve subdivisions in bad economic times, the point is if we're approving subdivisions that are being built while land values are low, there's a good chance that the millage rate is not going to keep up with the appreciation of the land value. And so in the last 5 years in the city of Westport, home prices have went up 79% in 5 years. Now in 5 years, the property tax, the millage rate, not the millage rate, but the property tax value has only went up 25%, right? So housing prices go up 79, property tax values are going up 25%. But what has that inflation done with all the maintenance cost? It's went up at least 79%. The only thing that's lagging is the property tax income that the city is receiving on it. So I say all that to say if land values are high, we want houses being built at that time. That's a great time for the city because we're catching it at the top of a market instead of at a bottom in the market. We talked a little bit about infill and exfill and the importance of, we want people building more houses that is in our current plan of infrastructure. So that stuff at Smith Street, that's a great project. That's adding more houses to sewer mains and water mains that were already in place, streets that were already in place. What else we got here? Regional standing. I put that on there. You know, every city in Northwest Arkansas besides Greenland and West Fork has seen some heavy growth over the past 5 years. Well, that affects our standing on the Regional Ambulance Board, on the Landfill Board. So it does affect us when we are not seeing the same growth that some of those other cities are seeing. Do we have general infrastructure needs? That's a great time to be approving developments and subdivisions when we can get those developers to fix some of our current problems. You know, we're passing it with the understanding that they are going to be upgrading some pipe or upgrading some streets or sidewalks, something like that. What kind of contribution can we get to the community from these developments? Are they adding more trails? Are they adding sidewalks that lead to the school? Different things like that. And then, of course, what's the cost going to be to maintain that subdivision? Next is this is simplified, so we're getting into some math here, and I tried to keep it simple. And so some of these values, if somebody goes through and walks through the calculation on some website, you're going to get a different number at the bottom. Point that out. I realize that. I didn't take into account the homestead tax credit of $375 and different things, but to give you a basic idea of how that calculation works, on a house that's valued, fair market value of $100,000, the city or the county is going to, like I said, they're going to take 20% of that value. They're going to multiply that 5 mills, that rate of 5 mills to it, to come up with how much property tax value the state's going to get. So a $100,000 home is going to provide the city $100 a year in property tax value. $100 a year. So our budget for 2023, we budgeted, I think it was $147,000 in property taxes. We budgeted $1 million plus in sales tax. And this is why, when we're starting to talk about homes or even businesses, that millage rate of 5 mills that's a small amount versus sales tax, and that's kind of just a simplified version of the sales tax. We get 3% in the city. So if you got a business that's doing $20,000 a month in sales, the city's going to get roughly $600 a month, and then we'd get another approximately $300 a month from the county side of that sales tax. So you're looking at total tax collected $900 a month from one business that's doing, a modest amount of sales a month. So just kind of an idea of how that breaks out and why that property value thing is kind of a tough one. So next slide. I just playing with the numbers a little bit to give everybody some ideas, but so this comes out of the 2023 budget. We budgeted, like I said, $147,000, I think is what it was, in property tax. So if we look at my slide here for property tax, the property in the city of West Fork is valued at $142 million. 20% of that's $28 million, okay? So then the 5 mills on the $28 million comes to $141,000 in property taxes. Okay, that's how we get there. Now, the county also tells us that the average house value in the city is $178,000. So, a little fun with math is if we divide that by 800 homes, we come out to the $176 per home, and is that accurate? No, but it's really close. If somebody was to go through the whole thing, you're going to get close to, we get about $176 per home on average in property tax that goes into our budget. Now, we have a lot of old property in the city of West Fork, and that's what I was going to with that West Fork Acres. That stuff was put in when property values were very low, and it doesn't keep up. Sales tax, $1,041,000 in sales tax budget in 23. If we have 800 homes and if our population is close to 2,400, which it is, that means we've got an average of 3 people per home, and that comes down to $434 per resident in sales tax. So when we start talking about a 30-home subdivision, that means 90 people in that subdivision, right? We can estimate on that. We can estimate that 90 people times $400 is however much that comes out to be. So we can start to look at these projects not just from do we like it, does this fit what we've always built in West Fork, but we can also see it from a monetary standpoint. And I'm not suggesting that we should yes or no on a monetary standpoint, but I would suggest that it certainly matters. It certainly matters how we can maintain it, what other amenities we can provide, how it's going to affect the school. And one thing I didn't mention when we had that picture of both of those subdivisions up, and I wanted to point this out. So we had the one subdivision that had all the houses in it, kind of the crazy streets, and we had the one that was kind of just the typical subdivision we think of. Something I wanted to point out was every one of those driveways had a car in it. So it doesn't matter what subdivision I want to live in. It doesn't matter what subdivision anybody on this council or in the audience wants to live in. The point is, people are wanting to live in both of those subdivisions. There were cars in the driveways in both pictures. So a lot of times we get hung up on, well, I don't want to live in that subdivision. Those houses are too close. And I get that. I'm not asking anybody to live in that. I'm saying we should probably consider it because there's a lot of people that do live in that and enjoy it. So, all right. Next slide, and general thoughts on development. So this is just some of my thoughts. Do the designs meet our requirements, and should our requirements change? We're currently discussing some major changes to our design requirements. Will property taxes cover future repairs, meters, streets, etc.? What effect has inflation had on our current development repair cost? Talked about that already. And then developments are like reverse Social Security. There's a couple of folks in the room that's on Social Security. Bruce, you're not quite there, but you're getting close. But what I mean by that is once you build your first subdivision, you almost need another subdivision, a newer subdivision, to help pay for the repair cost in that first one because the property taxes aren't keeping up with the inflation cost. And I reference that to Social Security because in Social Security, the typical is we have fewer people in retirement age and we have more people younger who are paying that employment, that FICA tax to fund those Social Security distributions. But subdivisions are kind of the reverse of that. You need a newer one on down the road to pay for the one that already been built. And then increases in sales tax. Our sales tax predominantly, we need to think of that as our revenue for operations. We want to approve developments. We want to have enough development that we have real estate property taxes to fund those repairs and maintenance so that we're not having to use the sales tax dollars for that. And then finally, next slide, the school. So I said a long time ago that the school and the city are much like an arranged marriage. The city did not pick the school, and the school didn't pick the city, but we're very much intertwined in a lot of the things that happen in the West Fork community, right? And so the school, where we get 5 meals on that property tax, the school gets 48 meals. So that's a much larger amount that the school's getting. And so the more of that newer development that we have, the higher that amount's going to be that goes to the school. And so when I was thinking about this a while back, it dawned on me that in the school's financial model, if we think about the elementary school, we have one teacher to 20 or 25 students. Well, those same 20 or 25 students then transfer into middle school. And so in middle school, we actually have 3 to 4 teachers for that same group of students. Am I right about that, Dina? And as that same group of 20 to 25 move to high school, now we have 5 to 7 teachers for that same group of students. And so the reason that's important is we need housing that is encouraging young parents into the community. That school needs to be front-loaded with young kids. Those days of 5 kindergarten classes where we had 25 kids per class and only one teacher with them, the teacher pulling her hair out, no doubt. But those kindergarten classes, those full kindergarten classes, were what was paying for all of the subjects that were being taught in the high school. That's how we were able to afford the 5 to 7 teachers that were teaching, different foreign languages and different things like that. So it's important for the city, from my perspective, it's important for the city to understand that the school needs that affordable or attainable, I don't know if you can call it affordable housing anymore, but attainable housing that will encourage those younger parents into the community. And it's going to help the city, yes, but it's also going to help the school. And again, think of that Social Security system where we've got the young kids paying for all those older students, right? So, with that, and the next slide, any thoughts or questions? Was it a waste of your time?
Well, the one thought that I had on, maintenance and all that, is that from the beginning, having a good inspector that watches and makes sure that everything, because we went through a lot of crap because of the inspectors on the job when they did the sewer.
You're exactly right.
That's nobody's fault that's even around here nowadays. But the inspection was terrible. There were jobs that were done that they didn't even put elbows. They made stuff. They took a piece of metal and used a pair of shears and wrapped it around it, poured concrete around it, and there was just stuff like that. And that's why our sewer system, a lot of it, failed. And we have better people, I think, in positions now to make sure that stuff doesn't get let go. Doesn't let it go on. But that's a big thing.
No, it's an excellent point. We just spent $1 million to redo all of the sewer pipe in West Fork Acres. Now,
Right.
that is something that's very uncommon for a city to have to do, is go into a subdivision and redo all of the sewer pipe. It cost us $1 million. I would bet paychecks with Chief Halliburton that we have yet to receive $1 million in property tax out of that subdivision. So it's an excellent point. Anything else?
I don't know if I want to see 82 houses in one little tiny,
Me neither.
but, you know, that's me. But like you said, there's people that want to live like that. There's people that want a tiny yard.
There's a lot of people
Yeah.
that want that.
But the
Because
problem
it's
is
less
right now,
cost.
we're not attracting the young people that can't afford what's here.
That's right.
But are they gonna be able to afford new ones?
Well, they sure didn't have trouble renting those ones
Yeah.
up on the, new ones.
That's renting.
So,
Yeah.
so Don, something else that's kind of dawned on me with this, thinking through this is, our high school graduates 70 to 80 kids a year. And so some of what we've heard in the city of West Fork is we want to keep West Fork, West Fork. We like this hometown feel of it. But we've got 70 to 80 kids that grew up in this community that understand the small town feel of West Fork, and we're shipping them out of the city because there's no place for them to live.
Right, no, I agree.
You know, we're literally sitting around building 5 to 10 houses a year of people that are coming in from outside of West Fork.
And that are 40, 50 years old and don't have little kids.
That's right. But our own children that we've raised in our community, they can't live here because we don't. I mean, we honestly need
Yeah, no, I
roughly
agree.
70 houses a year to be built just to keep our community. So, yeah, it's a different way of thinking. It's like I said, it's not necessarily what some of us look out for. I'm just testing it.
I'm with you, I didn't mean to upset you.
Yeah, so it's a different approach, and when we talked about some of that at our last planning meetings that we had at the fire department, different things, we had a lot of people, you know, we were talking about 6 houses per acre. We've already reduced the minimum lot size in West Fork. We were at 8,000 square feet for a minimum lot. And that's part of the reason we've been looking at some of that and making some changes, but a lot of people are, you know, going crazy over 6 houses per acre. And I'm not saying that's what I want, but I am saying that that's what developers are looking for, and that's a lot of what home buyers or people that are in the market, that's what they're seeking. So I think we need to come to that realization that we're going to have to make some changes in West Fork, or our school is going to continue to struggle. At some point, our sales tax dollars are going to start to falter as far as trying to pull double duty and run operations and maintenance. So that's part of the reason why what the Planning Commission is doing right now is so important. Getting some of those ordinances designed so that they are a little bit more attractive, they're a little bit more accommodating to what, and it's not just one builder, they're all looking in the same area for the same type. So just something that I thought would be good for all of us to kind of discuss and think about some of those different, some of the different things that are involved in that. And,
So speaking of that,
Yeah.
builders, is there anything going on with the bank, or the landowner next to the bank?
I can tell you that it has changed hands. Unless Isaac knows something other than I do, the guy that bought that he did buy it from the co-op. The co-op owned it. They, you know, years ago they decided not to build that. They sat on it. The same guy that built the houses up behind Harps is the one that bought it. And he's tossed around multiple ideas, some commercial out front, some multifamily, some single family. I think he brought it up to Isaac too, he brought it up to me, maybe an RV park. So I think he's in that period of spinning his wheels. What can I do? How can I get my money back out of this property? And so as far as a concrete plan, no, there's nothing, but it has changed hands, and I think he is looking to do something with it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What you were saying about infill versus exfill, like a subdivision that's put in kind of out in the middle of nowhere, do we have any control over that, or is that a county? Does the county approve that, and we don't really have any say-so?
It could be, Bonnie. If it's within the city limits, then we have some say over it. And can we say, no, you can't build it? We can't necessarily do that. But we can be much more stiff within our cost share. So if they're having to build new infrastructure out to it, the city can just choose to not participate. If somebody was going to build something that extended that infrastructure, but we knew because of that there was other development that was looking to come in behind it, maybe the city would assist with some of that infrastructure build out. So I think that's where we get a say in it, is if it meets our design standards and everything, yes, they can do it. Are we going to help or promote that? Maybe or maybe not.
But like that one, I can't think of the name of it, but the one that we've been dealing with, Homestead, did we have any,
The city of Greenland approved that.
so we didn't really have anything to do with that.
It's outside of our city limits and outside of our planning area.
But now we had to pay, didn't we have to pay something to?
So, we didn't have to, we chose to. So that was within the Greenland planning area. So the Greenland Planning Commission and City Council approved that. West Fork had no say in it. It turned into an absolute disaster, and the city of West Fork got involved just to try to do the right thing and help out. Now, I'm not going to deny the fact that the city of West Fork has a win in that, because we're getting 80 new sewer customers, right? So we do have a little dog in the fight there, but part of it was that was a bad situation that wasn't getting any better, and nobody else was stepping up to help. Greenland wasn't stepping up to fix the problems that they had approved. The city of West Fork did, but we didn't have to. That was a choice. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm Steve Green. I really liked your PowerPoint there, by the way.
Thank you.
Was really helpful. What sticks in my mind is, are we having trouble getting developers interested in West Fork?
No, sir.
So it's not so much that we need to court the developers as they need to court us?
Not exactly. So we have a lot of developers coming to look at property. Where we're running into issues, I would say, is in some of our ordinances, our planning documents on what we allow and what we do not allow. That's been more an issue than getting them down here to look. So they're looking because we have an excess, or we have capacity in streets. We have 2 4 lanes coming into town that aren't overpopulated, and I think that's a lot of the reason they're coming down here looking. In a lot of cases, we're not allowing what they're looking to build.
Because we've got a plan for what we think works for West Fork rather than what they think would maximize their return.
To some degree. To some degree. So our plan, a lot of our zoning ordinance hasn't been updated since the 50s. And so that's where we're running into a little bit of issue. Our zoning documents, in most cases, look like they're from the Stone Age to the builders who have been building in the region.
And the kernel I got also was that the schools need sustainable housing. I appreciate that, and I wish I had an answer. But is there an answer to that that doesn't lead us to look like Springdale?
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. We may be talking about referencing two different points of Springdale.
Well, that's good points.
It certainly does, but Springdale kind of, when you look at Springdale, it's kind of a haphazard. There wasn't a lot of design process. If you wanted to build it, and we're happy to have it. We certainly don't want that. We want something that is definitely thought out and planned as far as what can be built surrounding, right? So we want some form and function to be grouped together instead of Springdale where you have, 3 or 4 of many different types of businesses, a couple houses scattered in between. We do want some structure to how it comes in, yes. And that's what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea what happened to Tom Tornello?
Only what I've heard from Tom Kicklack. So we know that the quarry went into litigation over the closing of it. That has went to appeal, and the Terminella side lost appeal.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So that's where we stand on that. It did not.
Where's he at on the building over here?
Don't know that either.
He's kind of just vanished.
Yeah. I think one project was heavily determined upon the other. Yeah.
I assume he's still paying his rent.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I certainly hope we don't lose the opportunity we had with that quarry, but at present, that's kind of what it looks like.
Well, that was kind of shaky ground to start with. I felt like.
Yeah. I would say so. We certainly don't get many people that are looking to do 1,000-acre projects,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, I just wondered.
Yeah. No, I don't have any updates from him. I think the
He's been there
last.
for a while. He was a big cheerleader for Westport.
Oh, he was, yeah. I will say he's still doing some cheerleading. He did turn us on to Mark Marquist Homes. Don't know what's going to come of that, but they're looking at doing 30 on that 6 acres on top of the bluff. But yeah, as far as Terminella himself, I think we may have lost some favor when that fell through.
So what, are they just not allowing that to be a quarry?
No, so what this stems from is he was trying to buy that quarry from the McClinton family.
Mm-hmm.
When it went to close in October, the McClinton family said that he had not met some of the stipulations in the contract, and they refused to close. And so they went to court fighting over the real estate contract. And what Tom has told me is that the Terminella side has lost, and so the McClinton family still owns that property. And they haven't had a plan for it, I guess you could
Right.
say. I spoke with the McClinton son-in-law, and he said, possibly he would want to do something with it if they won the litigation. So we don't know. We haven't heard anything.
What's his name? You remember?
He's a son-in-law of not a McClinton, but an heir, I think, right?
Yes, one of the
I can't remember.
granddaughters.
We don't have to worry about
It's Michael something. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay. I don't remember his last name.
I can't think of his last name either.
I've never met him. I just spoke with him on the phone. Any other thoughts, questions? Okay. Is there any other business?
No,
Mayor's comments.
you've already done them.
Second that.
So, we are at that time of year, the beginning of the year. Next month, we should have the state of the city ready to present. I got the last department report, so we'll have that to go on next month's agenda.
Oh, it's not the last one.
Chad was the first one to get it to me.
Because he doesn't have anything else to do.
Cold,
this
rainy
time.
days.
Yeah, he admitted he hasn't been doing anything.
All right, John.
Hey, I'll make a motion, we adjourn. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. We are adjourned.
CD?